Good morning and welcome to Travels with Dottie. And I know that thumbnail looked a little scary. That's the last thing that we want to see when we're RVers, especially full-time RVers, because it represents, for most of us, everything that we own, including our precious pets. So I want to talk to you first about some statistics that I was able to find online and some recommendations for mitigating risk. And then I'm going to show you exactly what I do. Um, Obviously, fire is a serious risk for RVers. It causes hundreds of injuries and millions of property damage every year. Um, there are 20,000 plus RV fires that are reported in the US each year. And I'm not sure where they get that number because there's no central depository for that. Um, most of them happen while driving, not parked. RV fires can engulf a vehicle in less than 10 minutes. It's very quickly where it goes from a small fire to a total loss. Common sources are electrical systems, propane, brakes, and tires. So when we talk about specifics in the top causes, number one is electrical issues, faulty wiring, overloaded circuits, inverter malfunctions, and it's common in older RVs and in do-it-yourself installations, which I have. Now, faulty wiring could be, I've wired up my solar system myself or with help from friends. What if I did something wrong? That could cause a fire. Overloaded circuits, inverter malfunctions. That's an easy one. Inverter malfunctions is shut that inverter off when you're traveling. Right? And the thing that what I looked up didn't mention, probably the most important thing, is loose connections in your wiring system. They do generally a pretty good job on the base installation in an RV for both 12 volt and 120 volt. They know everything's going to shake, so they design it to be shaken. When you do your own solar system and you're doing your own connections from the solar panels to the charge controller, the batteries to the inverter, there are lots of connections on the batteries themselves and on these devices. And over time, those things can get loose. And loose connections create heat and they start fires. Ask me how I know. It happened to me. I ruined a charge controller. Luckily, I was right there when it happened, and I happened to notice, boom, my solar production went away. It went to zero. And I went sniffing around, and I found one of my connections into the charge controller was loose, and it was all charred and black, and the charge controller was toast. For propane problems, we have faulty lines or connections, pilot lights or cooking appliances. And keep in mind that propane, the gas, is heavier than air, so it tends to go low and pool. And a pool of propane gas is basically a bomb waiting to go off with the slightest of sparks. Propane leaks. The thing that I've seen in Quartzsite, the last RV fire I saw was a guy pulled into a campground, pulled up to the office, and his rig burst into flames. And it came from his refrigerator, the back of his refrigerator. These refrigerators, like I have, are two-way. It's electric or propane. It's a major cause of RV fires are these propane refrigerators. Tire blowouts. Underinflated or dry rotted tires can overheat. So you need to check your tires, and you don't want to skimp on it. You don't want to go, I can't afford it, I'll just go one more year. And you need to look at the date your tire was manufactured. And the recommendation is 5 years. After 5 years, even if they look good, they're not good, replace them with something new. Brake or bearing failure can also generate heat and start fires. If you have a trailer, you want to have someone check the brakes and repack the bearings, and I do that once a year. Heaters and furnaces, lint can build up in them. You want to try to keep the vent areas cleaned and unobstructed. Lint and dust could ignite, and boom, you got a fire in the middle of the night. Cooking accidents, cooking flammable liquids, grease, spills. Things can burst into flame and get out of control really quickly in a kitchen, just like in a house, but it's going to go up faster in your RV. So some prevention tips and general tips. And then after this, I'm going to take my camera and I'm going to show you the things that I've done to mitigate the risks. Install smoke detectors. Test monthly, replace batteries every 6 months. Add propane and CO detectors, especially near appliances and sleeping areas. Keep multiple fire extinguishers. Turn off propane while driving unless it powers a fridge and is necessary. And they say that's controversial. Check your manual and use judgment. And I do leave mine on to keep the fridge cold, but I do have a thing that I use to mitigate it. And that's going to be a big part of this video, or an important part of the video, not terribly big. Never leave cooking unattended. That's common sense, but you don't want to step outside to let your dog out while something's cooking on the stove and turn around and see have your RV look like the one in the thumbnail. Check tire pressure and condition before every drive. And I also recommend a tire pressure monitoring system that monitors both pressure and heat. It'll go off if it starts getting too hot and there's something wrong. Something's going wrong with the bearings or the brakes on a wheel, and it's going to increase the temperature of that. That sensor will pick up and let you know that something's wrong. Don't block furnace vents or cover them with rugs or items. That's kind of common sense too. What to do if you have an RV fire? You want to, if it's a growing fire and it's obviously beyond your ability to control it, get the heck out and get far away. Call 911. When the fire starts and gets to the point where it's out of control, you have gases, you have propane lines, you've got things that can explode. You want to get away and start accepting your loss. Use your fire extinguisher. If the fire is small and you caught it in time, you want to know exactly where your fire extinguishers are, and call 911 as soon as you can. It's a good idea. I've not done this, but it's a good idea to practice going out if you have like an emergency exit window by your bed. Make sure that you can get that open and get out when you're 65, 70, 75. It doesn't make sense to actually go out the window, but it makes sense to make sure you can open it. And at the very least, you can dive and fall to the ground. And even if you broke something or sprained something, it's better than not living. Let's see, and don't re-enter. Don't go back in for stuff when the fire's out of control, because you could easily lose your life. The maintenance things is you want to make sure all your detectors are going. Make sure there's pressure in your fire extinguishers. Look at those little gauges. Do good tire maintenance. Make sure you have good tires with good pressure, and that bearings get inspected and or repacked at least annually, and a professional inspects your brakes to make sure that they're okay. Clean, there's if you have a propane fridge, you have a panel on the outside of your rig, you take that off and you see the back of the fridge. You want to keep that clean. You want to take a vacuum out there, vacuum stuff out, make sure no critters have built nests in there. Things can become flammable, and you don't want that. There's a pilot light back there, and there's gas burning. Let's see, it says inspect and replace frayed electrical cords. Well, that's obviously you don't want any frayed cords, but go through with your socket wrench or whatever you use to tighten down connections on your solar system. Make sure, especially at those batteries, that they're good and tight. And I would check them after any major trip. I would check those. You're going down the road doing this, and it's going to loosen connections. And if you have a solar system with like a charge controller, there's a little screwdriver you use to make sure those wires that are going up in there are tight, and those screws can become loose. You might want to unscrew them, pull the wire out, inspect it, make sure it's not corroded or anything, and that it's nice and clean. If it isn't nice and clean, it means it got loose and charred. Then you want to cut that off, restrip it, stick it back up in there, and use that screwdriver to tighten it nice and hand tight. Don't over tighten it, but tighten it nice and tight. So there's no play if you tug on it a little bit. So I'm going to go outside now, and I'm going to show you all the things that I think work well for me, that I feel good about. Especially important for travel days is know exactly where a fire extinguisher is and be able to get at it very quickly. And I know mine is right under my seat there, and it's a good one that I purchased recently. As for alarms, I have a propane and carbon monoxide detector that I bought aftermarket, because the ones that come with rigs generally don't work real well. What happens is they break down, they go off unnecessarily, and people just cut the wires. Very dangerous thing to do. Have a carbon monoxide detector that's kind of stuck to the wall here. And then I replaced the smoke detector with a high-end combination carbon monoxide and smoke detector. And it can distinguish between cooking smoke and fire smoke to a very significant extent. My old one, every time I cook, it would go off. Not this one. Right here behind that panel is electrical connections on my solar system. I have that panel there so things don't bump up against it, because loose connections start fires. But if there's a fire, I've got one of those automatic fire extinguishers mounted on the wall right above it. And I'll show you another one I have placed as well. If you look back in there, you can see there's another 200 amp hour battery down there. That's the yellow top of it there. And right above it is another automatic fire extinguisher. Here's the panel on the outside of my rig that goes into the back of the refrigerator. And there's all the components of the refrigeration. We have the incoming gas. We have electrical. And right in here, above the gas, is another one of those fire extinguishers. Now there's a couple of things worth noting inside the trailer. I have a fire extinguisher right there, and it's the one that came with the trailer, and it absolutely should be replaced. It's 4 years old now. It's a cheap one, and I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't replaced it with a better one. I'm going to do that ASAP. And coming further into here, right by the stove, we have what's called a fire blanket. And if a fire breaks out here, all I have to do is pull on this, and a blanket will come out, and I can throw the blanket over the fire, and it will smother it. So check it out where it is. It's right above the sink, right next to the stove where a fire is going to break out. Those are the precautions I take, except for one more. Like many travel trailers, right on the front, I have 2 propane tanks mounted, and I have something extra on there. So this device, it's called a GasStop, and it automatically would detect a unusual high discharge of propane, like a full fire breaking out somewhere along the line or a leak in the line, and it'll absolutely shut it down. And if you don't believe me, I've had people go in the comments and say, oh, that's a waste of money because these modern tanks already have that safety built in. They don't. Check out this video.
This is the GasStop. Now, it looks pretty simple. It kind of just looks like one of those pressure gauges you get for your propane tank, but it's so much more than just that. This is the only device that I'm aware of out there that will 100% shut off your propane if there's a major leak. So let's go ahead and open this up, and I want to talk about 3 major benefits of this simple device. The GasStop is a pretty simple looking device, and yet it's highly engineered to help protect your trailer and your family. Now, it really serves 3 purposes, like I mentioned. Number 1, it's going to go ahead and completely shut off propane flow if there is a major leak. So again, if you're going down the road, you blow out a tire, it breaks your propane line. The minute it senses that, propane's cut off. Think your propane tank has a built-in shutoff? Think again. Only GasStop shuts it off 100%. Save.
So I hope you enjoyed that little fire prevention tour that I have. I know the red suspenders are pretty appropriate for the fire thing, but I didn't even think of that. I'm falling in love with these red ones. I really like them. I've been wearing them for 2 or 3 days now. But they remind me. I was a volunteer firefighter many years ago, and the straps that held up your firefighting pants looked just like this. Same color and everything. So that's nostalgic for me. I hope you got something out of this video. And if even one person watches this video and takes one step that changes their future in a good way, then I'm going to feel pretty good about this. If you have any details to add, and you like things like you also might want to check, or you might want to get this product or that product, feel free to do that. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.